he stated that, you know, he needed to sign the form, that they had sent him the form, that he had filled it out, and he had sent it back. He also stated that there had been discussion about taking Colt to Advantage Behavioral Health in Athens, that it was a holiday weekend when they were supposed to be taking him, and it never happened. He also stated that Colt was supposed to be attending counseling at the school, but as we know, Colt had skipped the days he was supposed to attend counseling. He hadn't even gone to school. So,
did he give any indication as to the reason why he had not gotten Colt into counseling before the school AWARE program came up?
Very briefly, he stated that there were some issues with his insurance as he had a newer job and he had waited for that insurance to come into effect, but otherwise, no, there were many attempts. He just never stated why he hadn't officially attended.
So, previously in the timeline, or in the search warrant, you had mentioned there was a shrine of Nicholas Cruz, the school shooter, on Colt's wall. Did you discuss with Colin whether or not he went into that gaming room of Colt's?
Yeah, I just point blank asked him if he went in the rooms that Colt occupied at the residence, if he had noticed anything on the walls. And he stated that he had noticed one specific picture of a male wearing glasses. I believe it would be the court picture of Nicholas Cruz. He stated that originally Colt had a picture of some rock-related individual hanging on the wall, but that picture had been taken down and the picture of Nicholas Cruz had been hung where that picture was on the wall. And he stated that he didn't know who that was, and when he brought it up to Colt, Colt basically said, "Dad, you really don't know who that is?" And he said, "No, son, I don't." The topic was dropped for a while, and then later that night, Colin asked Colt again who were the individuals hanging on his wall, and Colt explained that it was Nicholas Cruz, a previous school shooter. There wasn't any further discussion about that other than, you know, why is he on your wall, and he just said he was. So,
moving to the day of the shooting, did Colin provide a timeline of what he did that day?
He did.
Kind of go through what he said.
He said early that morning, the day kind of went as planned. He checked on his kids. He made sure that Colt was getting up and was going to school that morning, because they had discussed how important it was for Colt to attend school because he needed to go to counseling and had skipped so many days. He left and took his youngest son to school as he normally did, Coley. And then Jenny, his daughter, and Colt were left at the house to get on the school bus as they did every morning. He then went to work after he dropped Coley off at school. Later that morning, he got those very concerning text messages from Colt that I previously touched on. He then spoke with Marcy, who had also received concerning text messages. He also received text messages from his daughter Jenny, indicating that her school was on lockdown. He left work after receiving those concerning text messages, speaking to Jenny and Marcy, and went home. He stated that when he went home, he turned the news on in the den and was watching it and saw that the shooting had taken place at the high school by that point. He then went into Colt's room under the impression that all the weapons were secured in the residence, but then stated that he realized that the rifle that was Colt's was not sitting in the place inside Colt's bedroom where it had been previously. It was no longer in the corner of the room propped up against the guitar.
So did he admit to you that on the day of the shooting, Colt's gun was actually in Colt's bedroom?
Yes, he believed that that morning it was in the bedroom where it had been the whole week before, and then when he got home from work, it was no longer in Colt's bedroom.
Did you, I know, and I think we talked about this already, but you also interviewed Colt's mother, Marcy Gray.
I did.
Did she tell you anything about Colt's deteriorating mental state?
She did. She said that over the past year, his fascination with guns had gotten very bad. That was her wording. Specifically over the last few months, She said that he had also had a couple of physical altercations with his dad that were concerning to her. She specifically discussed that Colt had talked to her about the Columbine and Sandy Hook shootings. When he had talked to her about that, he would reference the school shootings but then say, just kidding, or he would make joking comments, as she described, about the school shootings. She also stated that Colt had asked his dad to buy him what he considered a shooter mask that was all black with just the eye holes cut out. And when she asked him why he needed that, he stated in a joking manner, "What? I've got to finish up my school shooter outfit. Just kidding." She also stated that Colt had increased panic attacks, specifically over the last month.
Did she indicate whether or not she discussed this obsession with school shooting with Colin, the dad?
She stated that she and Colin and her mother had discussed his fascination with school shooters, but had all kind of determined that it was in a joking manner and or I interpreted them to mean not a serious thing.
Did you have an opportunity to watch the body camera when Bexar County Sheriff's Office arrived at Mr. Gray's house the day of the shooting?
I did.
And was Mr. Gray present when law enforcement got there?
He was.
What did he say when law enforcement arrived?
In a not very surprised manner, he said he had just received some text messages from his little girl who was at the middle school about being in lockdown, and he said, "God Almighty, please tell me that your brother didn't do something." He said that out loud to the deputies on scene as well as the other law enforcement that were arriving as residents. They asked him, "Why do you think that he would have done something?" And he stated that they were trying to get him into counseling. He didn't fit in at his high school. He had let him do some online schooling, and that they had brought him back to normal school this year, and he had been going okay. He said that he had reached out to the school and that they had stated they had counselors, that he had filled out some paperwork for that counseling for the school through a third party, for the counselors to get involved. And then he asked if he could use his phone.
Did, in that body camera when he was talking to you, did he appear to express any remorse about what had happened?
No, he did not.
Now, did you ultimately take out warrants against Colin Gray?
I did.
And how many did you take out?
I believe it was 13 total warrants.
What charges did you take out warrants for?
Felony murder in the second degree. I took out 2 of those. I took out 4 counts of felony involuntary manslaughter, and then 8 counts of felony cruelty to children in the second degree. The last 2 of those counts will be for mental anguish.
So as far as the probable cause for the second degree murder, can you tell the court what that was?
Yes. Colin Gray did cause the death of the victim, who was under the age of 18, by providing a firearm to Colt Gray, knowing that Colt was a threat to himself and others.
And that was 2 counts because there were 2 students who were killed?
That's correct. So those are listed with those 2 separate students.
And as far as the 4 involuntary manslaughter charges, what was the probable cause for that?
That Colin Gray provided a firearm to Colt Gray with the knowledge that he was a threat to himself and others between those dates as well.
And those were for all 4 of the deceased individuals?
That's correct.
As far as the 8 counts of cruelty to children in the second degree, what was your probable cause for that?
That he caused the victims cruel and excessive physical or mental anguish, as with the last 2, by providing a firearm to Colt Gray with the knowledge that he was a threat to himself and others on the date of the incident.
And were those the, 8 children that went to the hospital?
Yes.
and you indicated that 2 of them will be mental pain. Is that because they were not injured, they were at the hospital for anxiety attacks?
That's correct, and it was 14 total, not 13. I think I said 13 previously.
And as far as cruelty to children in second degree, is that based on criminal negligence as opposed to malicious intent?
That's correct.
And the involuntary manslaughter, is that based on reckless conduct, which is also a criminal negligence standard?
That's correct.
And then do you see Colin Gray in the courtroom?
I do.
And can you identify him by a piece of clothing he's wearing?
He's wearing the orange and white jumpsuit sitting here to my left.
And one last question. You indicated that, I guess, one of Colin's children, the daughter, had texted him and said that her school was in lockdown. Did she go to a different school or did she go to Appalachia?
She went to a different school. She went to Heyman Morris Middle School.
I don't have any further questions.
Could I ask one question of you, Agent Ward? You testified that Mr. Gray got a text from Jenny that she was on lockdown, and then you said he left work. Do you know why he left work?
He stated during his interview that he was concerned because of those text messages from Jenny, as well as the text messages he had already received from Colt, stating that he was sorry and that it wasn't their fault. He had also gotten a call from Marcy stating she had received similar text messages from Colt, stating that he was sorry. That made him concerned, and he felt that he needed to go home.
Okay, and to your knowledge, I think you testified he left work and went home and turned on the TV.
That's correct.
So he went straight home from work. He went straight home.
That's what he
turned on
stated.
the TV.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Beard.
Thank you. Good morning, Agent Ward.
Good morning.
And Agent Ward, how long have you been working in law enforcement?
I'm going into my 9th year working into law enforcement, I believe.
Okay, and is that all in the same place, or have you moved around any?
It's not at the same place. I did almost 6 years at the University of Georgia Police Department, where I was on patrol. I left there as a corporal, and I was hired by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, where I've worked for almost 4 years.
Okay. And hired by Mr. Reynolds, Agent Reynolds?
Yes, it would have been.
Okay.
It would have been Mr. Reynolds at the time.
He
Yes.
was my law partner for 13 years.
Okay.
I know him very well. You got involved in this case, I think you indicated to us, the morning of the shooting.
That's correct.
And were you instrumental in taking any warrants? I mean, not warrants, but search warrants?
No, I did not take any search warrants. I just
And
took the arrest warrants.
Who did the search warrants?
The search warrants were taken by Special Agent John Genta. He's another agent at our field office in Athens.
All right. Now, you told us that that you were the agent who took the warrants themselves, and you just went over those.
Yeah, the arrest warrants for Colin.
And let me just be sure, the predicate acts for each of these counts that you have spoken with us about was cruelty in the second degree, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that cruelty being, 1, providing a weapon,
That's correct.
correct? And 2, knowing that Colt might hurt himself or others.
That's correct.
Those are the 2 areas through each one of these warrants, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you talked to us initially about when the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office went to the home of Mr. Gray.
Yes.
And I want to talk just a minute about that. As I understand, the FBI had some sort of a tip, and they notified then the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, is that correct?
The Jackson County Sheriff's Office, but
The
yes.
Jackson County, right. And then in response to that, the Sheriff's Department, I think 2 people went out to talk with Mr. Gray.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct? Now, Was Mr. Gray ever shown any sort of evidence as to what this notification that they had, that the FBI had?
Not based on the body cam footage that I reviewed.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, was it Officer Miller that was involved in asking most of the questions there that day?
Yeah, Investigator Dan Miller and Deputy Justin Elliott, but yes.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, Detective Miller talked to Colin and also talked to Colt.
He did?
Colin was agreeable for them to look in the house, to talk with his son. Didn't have any problem, cooperated fully.
Yeah, I mean, he never told them that they could go in the house. They talked outside on the front patio, but he was agreeable.
Okay. And Detective Miller indicated when they left, as I understand, that he believed that Colt was not the one that was making any threats and didn't see a problem. Is that
He
correct?
stated that he would take Colt's words as they were.
Okay. And Agent or Detective Miller never followed up with Colin Gray. Is that correct? Never called him back.
No, I believe there was a phone call either the next day or the day after between the investigator and Colin. That was over the phone, though.
Okay. But after that, there was no communication.
Not that I'm aware.
Okay. So at that interview, there was not an FBI agent there.
No, there was not.
And the way that it was left is everything's okay. I don't see a problem. They knew that there were guns in the home.
Correct.
And they never told Mr. Gray, you got to lock those guns up or you got to get rid of those guns. Is that correct?
Not on the body cam that I reviewed.
Okay. Nor in the telephone call, as you understand. Is that right?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay. Did any counselors or psychologists, psychiatrists, anybody who dealt with Colt Gray ever tell Colin Gray, don't have guns around the house?
I can't speak to that because I don't know every single conversation that he had, but in the things that I have personally reviewed, no.
Okay. Now, you talked a good bit about what Marcy said.
Correct.
You interviewed Marcy,
I did.
and I assume you interviewed her mother.
I did.
And was this recorded?
It was.
The mother as well as Marcy.
That's correct.
And you were aware that Marcy had made threats to kill Colin and also kill Colt.
That was made aware to me by Deborah's interview, her mother.
Okay.
I did not have any inclination of that prior to the interviews.
And do you know approximately when that is that she made these threats to kill both of them?
It was approximately 6 months to a year prior. I don't have the specific date in front of me.
Okay. And did you get any information that bothered Colt a lot, that his mother threatened to kill him?
According to Deborah Polhamus, it did bother him mentally that his mother would have made those threats.
Okay. Do you have any knowledge about the fact that Marcy Gray moved back into the house at some point prior to this shooting?
Are you talking about the house in Barrow County?
Mm-hmm.
I know that she had frequented that house. I would not say she specifically moved back in. She had been there quite a few times that I'm aware of.
Do you know whether she may have stayed there for approximately a week before she was asked to leave?
I can't speak on how many days
Okay.
specifically, no.
Did you have an opportunity to interview Colt?
I did not interview Colt, no.
Okay. Did anybody interview Colt?
Yes, he was interviewed.
Okay. And I'm sure that interview was recorded.
I can't speak to that because I wasn't there, but
Right.
yes, I'm quite positive it was.
Okay. And can you tell me who else you interviewed in relation to this case?
I've interviewed multiple people in relation to this case, so that would be a long
Just
list.
if you remember, I know maybe might not have remembered
Specifically, it
everybody.
was family members of the Gray. So I interviewed Colin, I interviewed Marcy, I interviewed Deborah Polhamus, the grandmother. I interviewed Colt's aunt, Annie Brown, and then I've also done some other interviews.
Okay. Did you get the information from Mike's gun room about the date that this gun was purchased?
Yes, I did.
And that was November the 17th of 2023.
It was.
And I think you indicated that it was an automatic rifle. Do you know whether it was an automatic or semi-automatic?
It was an AR-15 style weapon. I can check. Wait 1 second. I just know it was a 6-hour. I'm not going to speak to whether it was semi or auto, but I don't have that in front of me.
You mentioned that that was an automatic. I didn't know whether you had the paperwork there showing.
And it was an AR-15, so an automatic rifle 15. I mean, that's what it's called.
Did you obtain Marcy's telephone to do any search of the telephone for any of these texts that she said that she had received?
I did not specifically download her phone, so I did not specifically do that. I know it was downloaded by law enforcement.
It was downloaded?
From what I understand, yes.
Okay, and who would have done that, if you know?
One of our law enforcement partners.
Okay, and that information would also be turned over to the district attorney's office?
Yes, it will be turned over to the district attorney's office.
And I'm sure you got the information about Marcy tying up her mother and leaving her there for quite some time, about the time she made this threat to kill Colt and Colin.
Yes, I have been informed of that information.
Okay, and had the mother been banned from Barrow County?
When you say the mother, you're talking
Marcy.
about Marcy? Not banned. She had a warrant out of Barrow County for specific reasons.
Okay. You spoke about the paperwork that Colin Gray had completed for counseling with Ms. Butler. Does anybody have that paperwork? Has that been located?
Yes, we have it.
You have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it with Ms. Butler?
Yes, she was involved in the email chain. There was multiple people involved in that email chain.
Okay. So the paperwork had been filled out and had been sent to Ms. Butler. Is that
That's correct.
Now, do you know whether Colt had gone to school for the 8th grade? Do you know he completed the 8th grade or didn't complete the 8th grade?
I haven't specifically looked at school records. I've obtained information in my interviews, but I'm not going to speak to the exact attendance or not attendance that he did because I don't have it in front of me.
And do you know during the time that he would have been in the 8th grade, he was living with his mother part of that time down in Fitzgerald?
I do know that he had lived in Fitzgerald for some time, but I don't have it in front of me the exact months he lived down there.
Okay. Did Miss Butler indicate to you when you had a conversation with her why Colt was put in the 9th grade if he did not complete the 8th grade?
I didn't speak to Miss Butler, so I did not get that information from her.
All right. If I could just have 1 second, Judge.
I have spoken to DFACS supervisors. I have not conducted an interview with any of the actual DFACS caseworkers that would have been assigned to the Gray family.
And I assume at this time this is still an ongoing investigation?
It is an ongoing investigation. That is correct.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Can you redirect?
None for the data.
You can step in.
Thank you.
Are you gonna call more witnesses? One more, I'm gonna do just a brief recess to kind of get people straight services. So we'll come back at 10:20.
And he used to send me, he says, go talk to Vic about this. Yeah, I'm gonna walk in there, fresh out of law school, I'm gonna go walk in.
Raise your right hand, please. Swear the testimony given in the matter now pending for this court with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, if you could have a seat. If you could introduce yourself for the court.
My name is Investigator Jason Smith. I'm an investigator with the Barrow County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, and were you an investigator back on September 4th of this year when the shooting happened in Appalachia High School?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay, and what are your duties at the Sheriff's Office?
I'm assigned to the Criminal Investigations Division. We work crimes against persons. That can range from child molestation, murder, shootings.
Okay, and were you involved in the investigation of the shooting in Appalachia High School?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. I want to take your attention to a very specific part. Did you have a chance to interview Colin Gray?
Yes, sir, I did.
Tell us when that was.
That was on the 5th, September the 5th.
So the day after?
Correct.
Okay. To your knowledge, had he already been interviewed by the GBI?
Yes, sir, he had given one previous interview.
And when was that?
I believe that was on September the 4th.
Okay. And when you came in, was your interview recorded?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. And about how long did you talk to him?
It was a few hours.
Okay. And during that interview, did he talk to you about who had custody of Colt at the time of the shooting?
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
That was himself.
Okay. And did he talk to you about the guns that Colt used in the shooting and how he acquired those?
Yes, sir, he did.
Tell us about that.
Colin told me that he had purchased the firearm for Colt as a Christmas gift the previous year.
Okay. And did he say anything about the clips that held the ammunition for the guns?
Yes, sir. He mentioned that at least on one occasion that Colt had asked him for a larger magazine. I believe the original magazine came with 20, capable of holding 20 rounds, and he had asked for a larger magazine.
And did Mr. Colin Gray acquiesce to that request and give him the...
Yes, sir. He said he did.
Okay. Did he also talk about any other accessories to the firearm that Colt asked for?
He did. He mentioned some odds and ends. One that kind of jumps out to me is a bore sight, a laser bore sight to sight in the rifle. But he mentioned other things that he had gotten for the rifle as well.
Okay. And did he get the things that Colt asked for?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did he ever talk about going with Colt to practice shooting the firearm?
He did.
Okay. And where were that at?
I believe one of them was Big Laser. There was a second one. I don't remember the name of that one right now.
Okay. And the ammunition that was for this gun, who purchased the ammunition?
Mr. Colin Gray.
Okay. And where was it stored when it was at the house?
So during our interview, Colin Gray mentioned that the ammunition was stored in a green box. And through the GBI search warrant, I was later informed that the green box that Mr. Colin Gray was referring to was actually located in Colt Gray's bedroom.
Okay. And did he talk to you about Colt being violent?
Yes, sir, he did.
And tell us about that.
Colin Gray stated that that Colt's behavior had become more aggressive over the past few months, and he detailed at least 2 occasions where Colt had become physical with him, that he had punched him, he had kicked him. On one of those occasions, he had also thrown a screwdriver at him. He also mentioned that Colt had done some various damage to a door in the household that was close to his sister's bedroom.
And this was all in the few months before the shooting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And had he ever been violent with his mother?
He had. There was an incident, I believe, a week or 2 prior to this that Mr. Colin Gray shared with me that Colt had got into some type of altercation, verbal altercation one night with his mother, who was in front of his bedroom, and he had ultimately shoved his mother into a wall or doorway directly across from Colt's bedroom.
Okay. And this, you said a week or so before this being the shooting?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And because of that, was there a discussion between Colin Gray and Marcy Gray about removing the guns from Colt's access?
There was.
And were those guns ever removed from Colt's access?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Okay. Did he talk to you about Colin's mental health issues?
He did.
Excuse me, about Colt's mental health issues.
Yes, sir. He did. He mentioned that that the family had been trying to get him help. That Marcy and he had talked about getting Colt help at Advantage Behavioral Health. That they had discussed having him perform some inpatient treatment.
Did they ever go to that?
No, sir.
Okay. And did he say anything about Colt asking to be placed in a mental asylum?
That I believe that came from Marcy. That was discussed between Colt and Marcy.
Okay. And did Marcy relay that to Colin?
Marcy said she did. Yes.
Okay. Did you ever talk about Colt harming himself?
We did. After I showed Mr. Colin Gray a photograph of some injuries that I observed to Colt's left arm, Mr. Gray admitted he had knowledge of those injuries and stated about a year to cut himself.
Okay. And you saw wounds on Colt at the time of the shooting?
I did, yes, sir.
Consistent with cutting himself?
Yes, sir.
Just a second, please. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Good morning, Investigator Smith.
Morning, sir.
Just have a few questions for you. I was a little unclear. You were talking about this green box that the ammo was kept in.
Yes, sir.
That was kept in Colin Gray's room, correct?
Colt Gray's room.
Okay, so Colt kept it in his room?
So Mr. Colin Gray stated that he kept the ammo in a green box in his closet.
Mm-hmm.
And during a search of the household, the only green box that was located containing somewhat of ammunition was found in Colt Gray's bedroom.
Okay, so, but Colin told you it normally stayed in his room.
That's what
correct?
Colin said, yes,
But
sir.
what happened was that supposedly that Colt moved it, got it out of his father's room and took it to his room.
Well, Colin Gray did not mention anything about him moving it. He just said that the box was normally kept in his bedroom.
Okay, but that it was not there when he got back to the house. It was in Colt's room, correct?
We didn't discuss where the box was when he got back to the house.
Okay. And you indicated that Marcy had made a statement about Colt saying he needed to be in an asylum. Did you interview Marcy?
I did.
And when did you do that?
I would have to go back and look at my notes. I don't have that date specifically offhand right now.
Okay. Who else did you interview other than Marcy?
I interviewed Colin Gray. I interviewed Colt Gray. I interviewed Marcy Gray. I interviewed Debbie Polhamus. And then there was an aunt by the name of Annie Polhamus. I believe she goes by Annie Brown as well.
Okay. Did you take Marcy's telephone and have it inspected?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And has that been completed?
I have not entirely gone through it. I've gone through a majority of it, but not entirely.
Okay. And that information will be given to the district attorney's office?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
All right. And were you involved in the taking of any search warrants in this case?
I did not author any search warrants, no, sir.
And I'm sure you did a background check of Marcy Gray. be fair to say?
I did not run her criminal history, no, sir.
Okay, so you don't have any idea what her criminal history is?
I've heard that she has a criminal history. As far as exactly what that is, I don't know.
Okay. And so when you interviewed her, you did not know what her background was from the standpoint of any criminal history. That would be fair to say?
Not entirely, no, sir.
Okay. And did you ask her mother, Debbie, anything about her criminal background, about her daughter's criminal background?
We did discuss an incident that occurred in Fitzgerald, Georgia.
Right? And that's when she was tied up?
Yes, sir.
And you were also aware, I assume when you talked to Marcy, that she had made a threat to kill Colt and Colin?
Yes, sir. I had heard that.
Okay. And did you ask her about that when you interviewed her?
We did talk about the incident. Yes, sir.
Okay. And that will be reflected on the video?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Edmonds.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other witnesses from the
No, Your Honor.
prosecution?
Your Honor.
Any witnesses from the defense?
We have no witnesses, Judge, and we'll submit.
Okay, any argument?
Just basically, Your
We're
Honor.
going to submit it, Judge. No reason to argue.
Mr. Smith, did you have anything?
I was just going to explain the charges, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
The 4 involuntary manslaughters in the commission of an unlawful act that caused the death of another human being. 4 human beings have been stated in the warrants, Your Honor. And the unlawful act that we're alleging is the reckless conduct that a person who causes bodily harm to or endangers the bodily safety of another person by consciously disregarding the substantial and unjustifiable risk that his or her act or omission will cause harm or endanger the safety of other persons. And the disregard constitutes a gross deviation from the standard of care which a reasonable person would exercise in the situation. That would be the reckless conduct, Your Honor, that precipitates the involuntary manslaughter. The murder in the second degree is based on cruelty to children, Your Honor. A person commits murder in the second degree when the commission of cruelty to children in the second degree causes the death of another human being. Those would be the 2 children that were listed in the warrants, Your Honor. And the person commits the offense of cruelty to children in the second degree when such person with criminal negligence causes a child under the age of 18 cruel, excessive physical, mental pain. Criminal negligence is defined as an act or failure to act which demonstrates a willful, wanton, or reckless disregard for the safety of others who might reasonably be expected to be injured thereby. In this case, Your Honor, he had primary custody of Colt. He had knowledge of Colt's observations with obsessions with school shooters. He had knowledge of Colt's deteriorating mental state, and he provided the firearms and the ammunition that Colt used in this attack, Your Honor. So we ask the case to be passed over.
Thank you. All right, first of all, I just want to thank everyone that's here today. I appreciate your grace and the way you have handled yourself in this courtroom today, all the parties involved. So thank you very much for everything that you've done today. Based on what I have heard, the court does find that the state has met the probable cause standard on all the warrants as written, and they'll be transferred to Superior Court of Bexar County for trial. Thank you. We'll have a copy of this for each party, and if anyone else wants a copy, we'll be happy to provide that. Outside of that, if there's no other business,
Nothing further, Judge.
nothing further from the state, anything further from the state?
Yeah.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.